what we're trying to achieve is selling lifestyle over social media, and I don't want it to be sort of pretty people showing people houses and saying the same thing all the time. When I'm scrolling through social media, if I see the same person doing the same thing all the time, I just switch off. It's not about the broker. It's about property and the lifestyle. Why do people spend millions of pounds on something? It's because something's pulling at their heartstrings. People want to have something. There's a must-have.
What are you seeing right now that international buyers are looking for?
Better tax situation.
Oh, less stamp duty. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of The Real Ones. Today, I'm joined by the one and only Alex Bourne. Alex,
hello.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you. I know you're a big shot Netflix star now, and you're busy. How's life been post Netflix?
Well, busy. It's been really fun, actually.
Yeah.
It was a really fun thing to do, and actually, it's worked out really well for us. I'm really happy I did it.
Yeah. So, what's the story? It's not every day that, you have someone that's kind of had that degree of exposure and also the amount of experience that you've got as well. Tell me a little bit about, this was probably not always what you wanted to do, because from my research, I know that you've done an acting major, right?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
So what did 7-year-old Alex want to be?
Oh God, 7-year-old Alex did not know what he wanted to be. I just wanted to be understood, actually. I was completely misunderstood as a kid.
Yeah.
I was ADHD as a child, and very wired very differently, couldn't sit still. And I think I just really wanted to be understood and to be able to express myself.
Yeah.
Found it really hard in schools. Went to 5 schools. Yeah. Asked to leave politely a few, and was an extremely sensitive child. So I was I didn't really conform and found it very hard to. So I was just trying to express myself, and I think that's why I fell into acting. That nothing actually sort of seemed to fit, and I couldn't really express myself. And I think acting and singing and performing allowed me to do that. So I guess that's what I wanted to do.
So you're a bit of a singer still, or
you
not?
Ask me to sing.
No. We're gonna duet right now.
Karaoke. I'm good at karaoke.
No.
New York's my number.
Oh, let's go. Okay.
But my kids won't let me sing. Actually, they don't mind me singing, but I do sing. I love singing. We all sing around the house. We're a real singy household.
Yeah, and from what I've heard, you've got a very different approach to hiring people in real estate, because you actually don't mind that they're not fully real estate. You don't mind that they have different backgrounds and different stories. We'll get into that in a second, but talk to me about sort of the journey from wanting to be a singer, actor, etc., to then doing what you're doing now, which is running London House and
Look, I'm not a career agent. This wasn't something that I sort of woke up and thought I want to be an estate agent. Funnily enough, my dad was in property, and I grew up I'm a London boy, so I grew up around property people my whole life. So same with my business partner Richard. So naturally, sort of, I understood property, but my passion was acting, and as I said, expressing myself, and so I think the journey was sort of, following a career as an actor, but it's a very tough career. It's you have to constantly pick yourself up. I think the thing that frustrated me about acting was relying on someone else employing me. I'm a bit of a control freak. So I was desperate. I think all creative people need structure in order to succeed. So I was desperately seeking structure throughout my whole career, not understanding that within an industry you can be creative, even if it's a very structured sort of transactional, I guess, career like property. Yeah. And I guess that's why we're slightly different as an agency at London House, because both myself and Richard didn't sort of go to, we did go to corporate, we worked for corporate agencies, but with a view of opening up our own agency and bringing something different to the table, more personality, more relationships. Yeah. And I think there's a preconception with estate agents, we say estate agents, real estate, whatever. I think automatically there's sort of, it's like a dirty word when you tell people that
Oh my God.
if you tell people, oh, what career you're in, you're like, real estate. You kind of secretly say it, and I think it's because in the 1980s or growing up, it's frowned upon. It was kind of, it's kind of like there's a spivvy. So do you know the term spiv?
I have no idea what that means.
So spiv kind of means, that someone's trying to get one over you, trying to trick you into buying something.
Gotcha.
People think there's tricks in the book. Oh, what's your, I
Right.
get people sometimes even talking to me and saying, oh, I get that trick, or I see what you're going to say. They're already thinking there's some kind of dialogue that we're going to have where we're negotiating with each other, and there's tricks and
when are you going to screw me over?
when you're going to screw me over, basically.
Yeah.
Because in the 80s, that's what people did. Even agents were screwing each other over. We'll go back to the show, but I guess that's what people want to see. People want to see people screwing each other over.
Yeah.
And I think, why? Because we wanted to add value to an industry, a luxury industry, where there was trust, and people, you're spending the most expensive, you're spending the most amount of money you're probably ever going to spend on anything. Yeah. Why should it feel like you're a horrible, dirty transaction? It should feel like a fun, enjoyable process, a holistic process where you're actually working with people's emotions and feelings and wants and needs. So you should come out of it feeling good, I think. So I think, I don't know if I've answered any of your question, but because I just tend to waffle.
No, but it's still a really interesting sort of notion, right? Like I think that degree of people screwing people over is not just for reality shows. I feel like it's still a very real thing in the landscape today.
In life,
right? In life as well, yeah, of course.
I just think we all, I think that in a world where it's getting tougher and it's becoming a lot more about money and money-orientated things and time and space, and everyone wants to, we're too busy, that sometimes you get lost, the person gets lost in people's feelings. And I think actually, God, I'm getting really deep on everything, but I think that the world is going down a direction where we focus about money and objects a lot, and we're forgetting the people and human nature of things.
You see, I don't understand that, because the real estate market especially is the biggest almost in the world, I would say. And it's like there's so much opportunity to be quite abundant in your mindset. But everyone's just like, oh, but I need to, buy my 7th house, or I need to buy my 6th Ferrari or whatever. Like, I get it. Like, it looks shiny, it's nice. But at the end of the day, this is a very short life that we have. And like, surely the things that you want to be remembered for are more than just like, one person getting a one-up over one guy 20 years ago. It should be.
I think we all see it, right? You're in the real estate industry. We see people, billionaires, people with huge amounts of money, sometimes not always happy as a result of that. And really what we're all really searching for is, really we're talking about property, we're talking about homes, we're talking about where homes are very personal things. We're talking about security, we're talking about family and love. I'm sorry to sound cheesy. All of those things
100%.
Or why would you spend a huge amount of money on a property over another property in another area which is exactly the same square footage? Because it makes you feel a certain way. And sometimes we just talk, I think, in property about price per square foot, and the person gets lost, and the lifestyle and what makes people tick. That's what I think. You asked me why I got involved in property. I love people. I absolutely love people, what makes them tick, and I like actually making people feel happy. That's the buzz for me. I love doing a job,
of course,
making money, but really I genuinely, hand on heart, love people, making people happy. There's no better feeling.
Some of the best people that I've had on the couch opposite always say that it's a people business. People buy from people, and which is the whole kind of track on social media and all of this kind of fun stuff that you're now very heavily sort of investing in as well. Talk to me about sort of how you're like. There's a few players in the UK market, I would say, that are very aggressive and forward with social media. You happen to be one of those players.
Oh, you think? Okay.
I think so, right?
I appreciate that.
And because of, again, like the kind of type of people that you're bringing on to work with you, from what I understand, is not just solely property folks. Talk to me about how you help them bridge that domain expertise gap. Sometimes it's like,
Yeah.
because yes, the price per square foot, then it's like, oh, where's the airport? Is it near the house? This and that. Like, you might not have all of that knowledge, but you happen to understand a person's emotions and feelings really well, which is what the transaction ends up being.
Yeah, I mean, with the people that we're employing, the most important thing for me is life experience and being able to connect with people.
Yeah.
And there'll be horses for courses. Some you might not like me, but you might like someone else in my team, and that's okay. You know, I think that's more important. I don't look for cookie cutter estate agents or people who are going to be on social media sort of saying, hey, I'm Alex Bourne, let me show you around, because I see that all the time, you know, on social media. And I think social media is an incredibly powerful tool that we've all got to embrace. And it's just another form of marketing, right?
Yeah.
We used to do it with magazines, leafleting, all kind of, you know, different ways of marketing. We're marketeers after all. So it's a very important part of the business. What's interesting for me is finding a way to find your voice within social media, which isn't copying a formula that other people are doing. And I think what we're trying to achieve is selling lifestyle over social media, selling the personality of people who are working with us as London House. And I don't want it to be sort of just pretty people showing people houses and saying the same thing all the time. I'd like to add value to the consumer, because when I'm scrolling through social media, if I see the same person doing the same thing all the time, I just switch off. And I think the most important thing about estate agency, and something that I think we've got to get away from, is that we're not saving the world. It's not about the broker. It's about the property and the lifestyle. And when a client employs you, they want to sell their property and their home and their lifestyle to someone. That's what's going to pull at the heartstrings for the consumer, not how clever a broker is. So I guess we want people, we want clever brokers, and we want personality.
Of course.
But I think I don't want to get away from what we're doing, which is selling lifestyle and property.
Right. And what are those, like, what are a couple of questions that you throw their way when you want to figure out if they're the right fit for you?
Truthfully, I mean, we play a role. So I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but so everyone has a preconception of what a realtor is going to look like, right? Before you meet them, you think, okay, I'm going to meet a realtor now. And sometimes I meet even realtors who want to join us or who I'm going to do business with, and I see them come along dressed as a realtor, looking like a realtor. You can kind of spot them walking down the road. And then they'll start talking about business, and they'll say, oh, the price per square, and that's great, you know, but I assume automatically that people are going to have knowledge about the business. Really what I care about is the person, and really when I ask people questions, I actually want to know about what they do outside business, you know, what their lifestyle is like, what their background is, where they grew up, because that's more interesting to me.
Yeah, and that's what, at the end of the day, like when you think about the things that people relate on, I always use the example of the Whoop, like, because, you know, there's a few people in London, when you walk around, they'll have a Whoop on.
Right.
And within that instant, you know, they care about fitness, and you know, they care about monitoring their health, or there's an interesting story about how a friend recommended that to them. And it's the same with any other collection item. You have the higher end of the market. It's like, oh, I'm an arts club member, I'm a Soho House member, etc. And then you have the folks with the varieties of APs and Rolexes and things like that. But each piece or each membership is kind of a community that they're a part of.
It's a brand, actually, isn't it? You brand you self-brand yourself.
Correct.
And I think we have to brand ourselves. So I am aware of it. And I think we all self-brand ourselves. Even our clients self-brand themselves when they instruct London House. Why would they instruct London House? Why would they instruct DDRE? Why would they instruct Beecham Estates? Because people self-brand themselves. It's kind of like around the dinner table, people say, oh, who's your agent? You know, it's kind of like a flag on who you are.
Gotcha.
We all self-brand ourselves unknowingly, constantly. And it's not particularly nice to pigeonhole people, but you know, even with people, they might come to me and say, an international buyer might come to me and say, I want to, you know, have cafe culture. I want to be at this school, etc., etc. In my mind, I'm branding them. I'm thinking, okay, well, you're going to go to Notting Hill, or you're going to be in Marylebone High Street. probably not right to do it, but we all are very busy. So I guess we do self-brand ourselves.
Yeah.
I guess I don't like overthinking it in a way, but we subconsciously, holistically, that's what I look for, I guess, when I meet people.
Yeah. How would you brand me? It's too much.
God, I don't know you well enough. I mean, I'd have to ask you more about you know, because I think it's not linear. It's not like what you look like. It's about you know, what makes you tick. I'd want to have a conversation. Maybe after an hour we can discuss what I'm gonna.
Yeah, I was like, I wanted to see which you know, sort of borough I fit in.
Yeah, I think you're asking me about what I look for. I'm really interested in people, and I think, you know, when I show a property, for instance, you know, what's been really difficult to get across on the TV show, for instance, is how we show properties, because I'm not one of those agents who is, I mean, I do have the knowledge, but I'm not sort of, hey, this is a Gaggenau appliance, and this is, you know, I don't know, whatever surface, or this is, you know, I'm technologically challenged, actually.
Right.
So I don't spend a huge amount of time always talking about the house. What I do is sell the benefits to the person, depending on what they've told me they're after.
Right.
But I spend more time getting to know the person and what makes them tick and what their tick box is.
Very interesting.
And then I can resell that back to them if I'm not just as a trick. I'm trying and find what drives them.
Right, and obviously the estate agency kind of versus brokerage piece has, like, you know, changed quite a bit in the last few years. How do you sort of view that change, and like how do you embrace that, and like what do you do differently now versus, like, you know, if you were to start this company several years ago?
Look, I think that what I was saying before is part of the sort of spivvy, the old school agency. Someone will tell you what they want. You know, it was much more localized. So someone would walk into your office and say, hey, I'm looking for this. And if you didn't have it on your books, you try and sell them X when they want Y. And you're sort of, it doesn't work, right? The good thing about Prime Central London is we all cross-sell, we all sell each other's properties, we work as a community, there's a lot of collaboration. So I don't have to sell just X, I can sell everything, the whole thing, and it's become a lot more of a holistic process where you, like I said, you understand what people want and you go out and find it. It's almost property detective work.
Right.
So we have access to the whole of Prime Central London. We can go and source that for them as opposed to just selling them what's in my top drawer.
Right.
I think so. That's why agencies changed. How would I change myself differently? I actually think that's why we've been very successful in what we do, because we've never conformed to the rigidity of being a local office.
Right.
I when I started off my career at Foxtons, actually, funny enough, which is a great place to start. Most of the best people in the industry started at Foxtons back in the day. Funny enough.
Even in Dubai, which is funny.
Same?
Yeah, they've come in from Foxtons, the CEO of Better Homes, which
Sotheby's,
is of course.
Rockbecky, you know, all of these guys, all of these people started off, funny enough, at Foxtons, and they were changing the face of agency back in the day. But I think that when I was at Foxtons, I turned up at 30. I was 30 when I went into the industry. I was late into the industry.
Wow.
So I didn't have any ideas about how the industry should work, and I actually didn't care because I already knew who I was. So you know, people would come into the office, the local office where I was working, and they were asking for a property, and I didn't have it. So I was showing them another office's properties, and I started upsetting the other offices. And I couldn't understand why I was upsetting the other offices selling their properties. So I was like, look, I'm selling your properties for you. What's the problem? But they were like, well, there are properties. We don't sell each other's properties. And to me, that was insane. Like, Foxtons had access to the whole market, but what sometimes happens with corporates, it still happens, you know, you'll have an office in, say, St John's Wood, and the buyer might consider buying in, let's say, Mayfair, but the St John's Wood office wouldn't take a buyer to Mayfair because they won't get the same commission. And so the experience for the buyer is they get lost in the ether. So they'll, you know, it didn't compute to me. So I guess I was just trying to please people. I didn't really think about whether or not I was conforming to what the structure of the agency was.
Fair enough.
I don't know if I'm being succinct enough.
No. I think that makes a ton of sense. And what about, so you mentioned international buyers. what are you kind of seeing right now that international buyers are looking for, especially in PCL? Like, what is their
they want better tax situation.
Oh, less stamp duty.
I think the international market have been scared off of the UK at the moment, and it's a shame because London's amazing, and it goes through sort of, it's a very stop-start process at the moment. People know that they want to be in London. Everyone loves London for the culture and the history, all the things that it has to offer, schooling. But I think, it's been sort of, the elections coming up, there's been stamp duty, there's wars, so people are sort of sussing out whether or not they're going to be buying in London. Ultimately, I think they will do. It's just slowed down the process, so things are taking a lot longer to sell at the moment.
Yeah, I've seen that across, like everyone that's come on has said the same thing.
Oh, really? Yeah.
In terms of deals taking longer because people are a little bit more watchful of what they're picking. They'll view like 4 or 5 things, wait a few months, and then like take a call a little
people
bit
are still
later.
buying. It's just taking longer for people. And I think people want to be buying smart. What else have I been seeing? A lot about, since COVID, everyone wants outside space. It's always been the case. And I think if you're buying, high net worth individuals who are buying here, they're looking for homes. It's really all lifestyle led. I think everything changed in COVID. The UK industry, the London market was in the dark ages, really. Social media, for instance, no one was buying through social media. We saw a massive change in all industries, but certainly in London, people became a lot more interior focused. Everyone was looking at interior design on social media, so I think people are. It's become a lot more lifestyle led, a little bit more editorial kind of style properties are selling. You know, things that just tick the boxes for people, and they say, right, that's what I want.
That's so interesting because it kind of coincides. One of my friends in Dubai, he runs a something called Casa Milano, which is like a luxury supplier kind of a piece. So like Versace toilets and that's kind of thing. When I first interviewed him on a totally horrible podcast that I had, I was running around with my tripod and my phone, but wasn't anything as extensive. And he said he had like about 1 showroom live at the time, and he was trying to get to profitability on 1 showroom. Now he's opened 6, and he's just expanded to Qatar as well. And it's ridiculous to see the growth just in that interior space, because everyone wants like a nicer, let's say, jacuzzi, or they want a nicer table, nicer bathroom setup and things like that. And that's very
but what you're saying is interesting, because why do people buy and why do people spend millions of pounds on something? It's not because they've got money, and I think some people get lost and they think, it's an investment, really, why do people part with millions of pounds? It's because something's pulling at their heartstrings. People want to have something. There's a must-have, and they've thankfully got the finances to do it. And so, if something pulls at the heartstrings and it's a no-brainer, you can't help yourself. If it's a motive, you can't help yourself, can you?
Right.
Why would you buy the best pair of trainers that are double the price of everything else? Because you really want them, that's kind of.
And it's also one of those brand things where you're like, I have the top trainers, like I got Yeezys, I got like whatever,
Absolutely, you want to you show off. Some people want to show off to their friends. Some people want to just feel good. There's different things, drivers for different people. But I think that is the trend always in the market. We can talk about bad market, good market. Ultimately, we deal with people's feelings. And even when I first started in the bottom end of the market, or whatever you say, that first time buyers, the driver for that person, there's always an emotion behind it. Maybe someone's pregnant, maybe someone wants to have their new home, first home together, or whatever. So really, that's the most important thing, and always the driver.
Right. And we spoke about money coming into the UK. What about money going out of the UK into markets like Dubai? How are you seeing appetite for that right now?
A huge amount of money going to Dubai. I don't really understand the Dubai market well enough. I'm a London expert. We're called London House. So I can't talk about the London market, the Dubai market with extensive knowledge. But it is unbelievable what's happening in Dubai, and I guess it's and even places like Saudi at the moment, the amount of money that's been putting into those regions is to grow those markets is incredibly impressive, and I'd love to actually go out to the Middle East and see what's going on.
Well, you have the invite. I'll get you from the airport.
You should tell me more. You can tell me what's going on there, right?
I mean,
what do you see?
About 50% of, almost 50%, someone will correct me if I'm wrong, of all sales is off-plan sales, right? And in general, we're seeing the off-plan sales kind of cool off now because there's brokerages that are exclusively running on purely off-plan sales, and they're having cash flow issues, right? So if you are not diversified in your portfolio and you're completely sales driven and not having any sort of property management element to your business, it's a harder piece to kind of manage, because Dubai market is very interesting in the sense that you had this massive spike.
It's volatile, right?
Yeah, it because of the way that the demand has developed, right? So at one point it was like, oh, we have too much excess supply, whatever. 2020, COVID happened, government dealt with it better than pretty much any government in the world. We were vaccinated before everyone. We were out of lockdown outside of 1 month, because the economy needed to sort of survive. To really tourism was our business, and you can't say that the country's shut when tourism is your business. Diversified from oil, etc. And so since COVID, you've kind of seen, and since a lot of geopolitical instability, globally speaking, all of the markets that are affected by those instabilities are basically flocking to Dubai. At least the rich from those markets are able to park their money into Dubai now and buy sort of ultra luxury homes, which above 10 million, for instance. You're seeing Dubai have a higher volume than New York, double New York.
I get that, right? But I also think, and this isn't me talking down the Dubai market, because I think most of our purchasers are international buyers anyway, some way along the way, and have homes in multiple countries. But I think ultimately, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because I've not been to Dubai, but I think what people find with Dubai is it's amazing. You get huge space, there's a lot of things going on, the growth there is exciting to be at, there's a real buzz there. But I think ultimately, people love London for the history and the culture here and the diversity. The diversity in London is unbelievable. So I think that people, even though they're purchasing in Dubai, will always want to have a foothold in the London market.
Oh, 100%. If you're wealthy, yes. You have something in every market almost that matters, right? I think in Dubai, let's say the average buyer, your normal middle class family that's coming out to the country, to the UAE, they're gonna buy a space there, and it's it's a startup city, a startup country, right? In 50 years, a little bit north of that, and the progress has been insane. So maybe in 300 years, we will have the history and the heritage that London does, kind of a thing, and the culture, and amplified in that sort of manner. But that said, it's for the hustlers, the rebels, the misfits.
Well, that's I'm interested to find out, because I hear I'm interested actually in the culture of agency in Dubai, and I hear some very strange, there's some real cowboys there, right? There's some real cowboys.
There's a lot of cowboys.
I mean, look, there are here, in every industry, but you hear that, don't you? And I'm wondering if there will be a cultural shift in agency there. Do you think there will be?
Oh, so I think that fundamentally the Dubai Land Department and a plethora of others that are on the regulatory side of things hated that reputation. They don't want this cowboy reputation, right? And which is why it went from almost no regulation about 10, 15 years ago to now a very robust regulation sort of space. And all to an extent where we have something called REIS, which is the real estate evolution space. It's kind of like a technology hub for the government, the brokerages, and the property technology companies coming together under one roof. And they're exchange ideas, talk to each other, right? And that degree of collaboration is usually impossible, because you don't sit down with the land registry and let's say, Invisible Homes or something like that, and London House in the same room, along with a DDRE, Beecham, and like, 10 others. Like, it doesn't happen anywhere else. So the question is, can we increase the velocity of that to an extent where it blows up, increases the size of the market significantly or not?
Yeah.
But that's kind of where we're at. Yeah. I hope I'm selling this to you well enough.
No, I find it really interesting because I think the cultures of the agencies is interesting. I am going to talk about the Buying London show that we did, because I think that it's always been a real big challenge for us when we were doing the show. I automatically said no to it at the beginning, and said, because I'd already sort of filmed previously for another property show, because I was interested in it. But I think the challenge for us in the London market is no one likes to show off in London. So to be able to get as many properties as we could on the show and show the industry how it actually works and all the transactions, and it's very complex the way that we all work here, was so difficult, as opposed to sort of America. In America, everyone's sort of just outwardly talking
drone
about what's going on.
Like,
drone shots, big.
Yeah.
Here, it's like kind of almost frowned upon if you display wealth, or if you even the way that agents talk to each other, or the reaction to the show. You see how people are. Oh, we don't talk about property like that. We don't. Agency's not like that. And it's quite interesting that how other cultures and other industries influence. Right, America influences England. Yeah. England. I don't know if England influences.
We've got a mix of everything, to be honest. We've like a lot of agents in Dubai are British, right? And we also have a lot of that American culture in terms of the brokerage model kind of being.
What do you feel works best? I mean, what in your view works well in Dubai?
This is my podcast. Just you were so.
Where do you sit? Where do you sit with that? How do you feel? What do you think the market demands from a consumer in Dubai?
The market demands from a consumer.
As in a buyer, as in sellers.
What are they looking for?
What are they
from
looking
a
for?
brokerage.
For a service.
I think they're looking for only one person to deal with, to be honest. They get bombarded with cold calls and things like that, even though they're not allowed to. And I think they want, a completely end-to-end sort of service where everything till the key is done, because they're extremely busy people. They're some of the hardest working people on the planet, I would say, in the white collar space. Like, you have a crazy amount of finance volume there, and across categories, basically. Like, they work a lot of, there's a study on this, that people in the UAE work a lot longer hours than almost most other markets. So they want a completely end-to-end service. They don't want to worry about, especially if they're paying the price. They want the most amount of reach and influence on their sort of whatever they're putting out there, so that they can get a deal done as fast as possible. And they want to move on and buy the next thing and park their money elsewhere. And so that's kind of what they're looking at.
Because it's interesting, because I think you've said a few things that are obviously transferable here. I think most importantly, and going back to what I wanted to do with the industry when we first started, is what I wanted to do was give a full service and end to end. And I think we just did it naturally. I wasn't sort of I felt like the industry was in the dark ages. And you just sort of, it was very transactional. It was like, here's your property, here's your keys, thank you very much, kind of thing. No relationship at all. And you sort of move on to the next one. I think the secret to our success is we've been dealing with people, families, really.
Right.
The younger generations, we're now dealing, and you can now become the older generation. They've passed us on to their younger generation. If you build long-term relationships, 100%. There's no, and not because you're trying to do it but for a business point of view, just because if you are good at building long-term relationships, there's a trust element, and it's gonna feed your success. And I think that's what people are looking for when they look at a broker. They want someone that they can trust, and someone who's going to who have their best interests at heart always. And what a lot of bad agents do within I hate using the word transaction, property transaction. What most people are what bad agents do when you come out of a deal, both parties feel like the buyer and the seller, or the renter and the landlord, they end up hating each other, because the agent will blame the other side and say, well, they're doing this and they're doing that, and then it's the worst type of agency. You might get a deal done, but everyone comes out of the process hating each other. It's a terrible deal, because they'll never come back to you. They've hated the process. The best thing you can do as an agent is to make everyone love each other, make everyone feel like they're really nice people, because then, especially in this market where things fall apart quite easily
100%.
Through bad communication, you want to go into you want to come out of every property deal feeling like everyone's a winner. And I think that the industry's changed in that way. People want to enjoy buying homes.
Right.
It should be fun. I mean, it should be a fun thing.
Very happy transaction. Okay, we've spoken a little bit about everything, I think. But
so
at
I
the
do
same
tend
time,
to waffle on.
No. It's like, I mean, all of us in real estate, I think, do that. So it's not anything out of the ordinary. But you've had a lot of highlights, right? AKA Netflix show, London House, Beecham, etc. Like, you have had an enormous amount of success.
I appreciate that.
But what are the lowlights? What was the kind of the toughest moment for you?
Had loads of lowlights. Look, I think as a small business owner, I mean, and when you've got members of staff and it's changing, we become brokerage, but any kind of, feeling like you're letting anyone down on the team, there's been some points where we're like, oh God, we're going to close the doors. When you're high value, low volume, you're always relying on your last deal. You're not doing millions of transactions a year. So, there's some void periods, and I think those periods are really hard to deal with. You start panicking. So I think the low lights are sort of those bits. I mean, look, I try not to think of anything as a low light, because you're always growing, right? Even the low lights. I think, business partnerships, potentially, arguing. I don't like arguing with anyone. I don't like losing a deal ever. And I don't like upsetting people, feeling let down, especially good people, when you're dealing with good people and they're sort of at the point where they think they're getting a property and they don't. There's been loads of low points, but I guess, you learn and you grow from those things, and those end up being the bits that you sort of, when we first started our business, I left a corporate company to set up my own business with an A4 piece of paper and wrote down everyone I could think of who I'd met in property. Just an A4 piece of paper, and I was in a kebab shop. I was in an office above a kebab shop with Richard, and we sort of sat there with just a list of names and just called through those people and sat in front of people. And I remember going to it was a 3-floor walk up above a kebab shop, and we were just sort of thinking, what are we doing here? But you look back at it and you just, without those moments, and then when you're sort of successful, or you grow, you don't have any gauge of, enjoying the bits when you feel sort of, good. You've gone somewhere on the journey.
So you need that. So Taylor Swift has this kebab shop as well that that she supposedly goes to after a show.
I read about that.
And now she's ordered hundreds of kebabs from
that's
that
amazing
place, just for the fans of the show. It's
maybe that's
funny.
What we should do as a move-in gift.
I think kebabs. It's give them some kebabs.
Kebabs on us.
This is gonna go great. So I have 2 final questions for you.
Okay.
Right? You're an entrepreneur, right? Whether you consider yourself one or not. But do you have a favorite quote about entrepreneurship?
Oh, God. Do I have a favorite
or
quote?
Something that you kind of like, a principle that you know?
No, I just think, I've sort of touched on it there. I mean, the only one I can ever think of, I'm quite a spiritual person.
Right.
My mum's a spiritual healer. I always think out of the darkness comes the light is my quote. That's it. I mean, but it's not an entrepreneurial thing to think. I think, just always to be positive and always see the positive side of any situation. But I don't have anything else that comes to mind, I'm afraid.
No, I mean, that's great. And my last question to you is, what advice would you give your 21-year-old self?
Chill out. I think just enjoy life. Life moves. I'm quoting a movie. Life moves pretty fast, and if you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. And that's from I can't remember what movie that's from. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But I just think you just gotta enjoy and appreciate every moment in life. It goes so quickly. I'm a dad. Now, and I see my children growing up with so much stress on their shoulders, and we always spend the whole time sort of thinking how stressful life is, and I just think life is beautiful, and we should appreciate it and not work too hard. Work hard, but enjoy it, and be around loved ones and appreciate the people who are important to you.
No, absolutely. Well, Alex, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
To you. Thank you so much.
That's been this week's episode of The Real Ones. Come back next week for yet another one. And don't forget to smash that subscribe button.